Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're excited to have Alison Grun with us. Alison is a traveler at heart with awesome stories and the founder of FreeW, a company dedicated to empowering women through motorcycle road trips and tours. In today's episode, Alison will discuss how FreeW is creating unique experiences for women riders, share her insights on the importance of motorcycle safety, and explain how she combines her passion for education with her mission to empower women on the open road. So get ready for a fascinating conversation as we explore the paths of safety and freedom with Alison Grun, right here on the One Gang podcast.
I love riding in this country because I really feel like in the flow. You know, for me, when I'm riding there, it's like a dance, you know? And at the beginning, and what's funny is that all our guests, by the end of the trip, they feel it too.
Hey guys, welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast. We got an awesome show for you today. Alison Grun, founder of FreeW. You guys wait until you hear this story. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's just jump right into it. Hey, welcome to the show. Greatly appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be taking part and talking to your American audience.
Awesome.
We're excited to have you, Alison. Let's start from the beginning. So how and where did you grow up and what sparked your initial interest into motorcycles?
So I was born in Paris and I grew up in France, in the Parisian region. And as I always say, I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't have a choice, but I was a bit born in the motorcycling world. Like, my dad is a Harley Davidson aficionados, and my mom rides as well. And basically, as early as 4 years old, my father would take me on the back of his Harley and with a little cushion and a little belt, and we would ride down to south of France, you know. And from this age on, as early as 2 years old, I would always be like on the back of my dad and being taken all around and for holidays and, you know, bike groups, weekends and rallies. So yeah, it's always been part of my life, I would say. So, but then it developed. I mean, I always say I could have been disgusted from motorcycling, to be honest, because spending my holidays on a motorcycle as a young kid when it was raining and Harley Davidson were always like, you know, having breakdowns and, you know, my parents, my mom is always saying, I'm wondering, my mom is always saying, I'm wondering how you still like motorcycling, because I'm telling you, when you were young, you didn't like it that much. You were so eager to jump in a car, you know, after hours and hours of riding in the sun or under the rain. But yeah, in the end, it's always been part of my life.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you remember the bike your dad had at the time?
Yes, he had the Electra Glide, but he had so many. I mean, he had the chopper and he had the Electra. Usually he had the chopper when I was really young, but then to take me behind his back, then he would have an Electra with the big,
Electra Glide.
you know, the big a tour pack in French.
Tour pack, yep.
Yeah, tour pack behind so that it was more comfortable. And my mom, she mainly always had Sportster because she's quite petite. But yeah, he had lots of different bikes, to be honest. But
I gotta tell you, your mom and dad are two cool people. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
That must have been a lot of fun growing up. Both mom and dad are riding.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what's funny is that sometimes I talk with them about my passion for motorcycling and how I'm using it in my life now and how it's so much part of my balance as a person and as, you know, for my mental well-being. And it's funny because my dad is really, he's really happy that he did it. He does not have too many regrets. And on the other side, my mom, sometimes she's like, oh, I can't believe we made you do all that when you were so young. You know, if there's one thing I regret is having put you on a bike so young because, you know, with the helmet, maybe it's because of that you have some neck issues and things like that. And I'm like, that's weird, Mom, because that's the best thing you've ever done. But They are very different
Nice,
perspectives,
nice. That's awesome, man. That's cool. Great story. Great story. What a way to grow up. My son did this, grew up just like you did. He's been on the back of my bike since he was 4 years old, and now he's finishing up high school. So, and got his own license and rides. Hey, listen. Being the founder of FreeW, basically, which ignites women's emancipation empowerment through motorcycles. Can you take us through like what inspired you to create this organization and kind of how this whole plan came together? Can you take us to that beginning stage?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there are two, I would say there are two backstories. The first thing is, I mean, two enlightenments, so to speak, that I got. The first one was that um, the impact that motorcycling has on my mindset and my well-being is very common to much more women and people and men as well than I thought. And second, that motorcycling is such a good tool for economic emancipation. And so this happened when I moved to Asia. So through my jobs, I used to work in telco. In 2014, I moved to Malaysia in Asia. And as I told you, I used to be motorcycling with my parents, my club, men, women, family. But, for me, it was just part of my life. And when I moved to Malaysia, I ended up as a, female rider on my own. And I tried to find friends, and I realized that there the women were riding a lot together, and that's how I started riding with women. And in a country where there are a lot of social expectations, and men and women don't do that many things together, then I realized how motorcycling was an emancipation tool for the local women, and how they, when we were together and riding bikes, how it impacted them in terms of their way of thinking and how free they felt. And so that was the first enlightenment for me, because I didn't experience that back in France. And then I started traveling as well around, because I make a point to do road trips every year. And I started traveling in India and then in Nepal. And one day we were in the rural mountains, and one of the tour guides, who became my partner later, was carrying a little boy on his back. And we stopped at the next village, and I was, "What are you doing with this boy behind your bike? Where did you pick up that kid, And he said, "Well, there was his mom in the previous village where we stopped, who asked me to take him to the doctor because she's stuck for 3 days. The husband is not there. She doesn't have any transportation. There's no bus. She cannot ride. So she asked me to drop him at the doctor, and the sister will come later."
Wow.
And suddenly I realized the importance of mobility. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, you're so stuck if you don't know how to ride." What I took for granted, like, it was not that accessible to everyone. And I thought it's the same to access to finance, to access to school, education, health. And so these both enlightenments basically made me realize that motorcycling was an amazing tool, not only for the emancipation, the mental freedom, but also for economic freedom. And that's basically how the idea sparked in me, and that I wanted to do that. And I wanted to make that my life mission in a way.
That's cool. That's
That is really cool. Can you tell us about the first journey that you planned, and how many people were involved, and some of the details? And
Yes, sure.
we're curious.
So what happened is that so I traveled 2017, 2019. And so at the end of so I had these ideas and all those things that were popping up in my head, but I was working full time and busy traveling around. And end of 2019, I lost my job. And I always say it was a blessing in disguise, like the fintech company I was working for was running out of funds. And So anyway, I lost my job end of 2019, and I go to Nepal at this time again to meet my friends again. And I wanted to do some volunteering and to meet my former tour guide, Sushant. And Sushant tells me, Muya, so it's my nickname because I was the only young girl in the motorcycle tour trip we experienced together. I say, Muya, we need your help. We'd like to organize more motorcycle tours. Can you bring customers? And a bit jokingly, I said, yes, of course, but I think we need to organize for women because, I was the only girl and, I enjoyed it, but I was so frustrated because I wanted to meet and talk to these women we were visiting in the rural areas. I was so impressed by what they were able to do and all the resilience that they have. And I would like to interact with them. I'm so impressed and inspired by those women. So we need female tour guides. We need local Nepalese women to take us and to help us interact with these communities and these women to learn from them. And then he was laughing. He was like, there's no such things like, women, they don't ride in Nepal and let alone big bikes and being tour guides. Forget about it. And I was like, well, I'm happy to organize tours with you, but we hire women. And funnily enough, a few weeks or months later, he called me back. Muya, I found motorcycle riders. They are women. They want to be tour guides. Suddenly he found them. And that's how basically it started. Wow. And I said, okay, so we're going to organize those motorcycle tours for women. And we're going to give economic opportunity to the local women that we visit as tour guides or as, prioritizing business-owned women for our homestays or accommodations. Right. And that's how it sparked. So we initiated that. And then I started reaching out to women in the different countries that I know in my international network and started conceptualizing a show in Iran, in Myanmar, in India, in Nepal. But then it was 2020. So obviously, it was not the best time to start tourism business, right? Plus, what I not what I discovered, but what I realized is that a lot of women wanted to do this type of tours, but they didn't feel confident enough. And they were like, oh, that's crazy what you're doing, Alison, going to those remote areas. I don't have the skills. And then I thought, oh, okay, so maybe before I invite women to those adventurous off the beaten track motorcycle tours, maybe we need to train them first and making them feel more confident. So maybe that's something I can start in Malaysia and also try to help them find economic opportunities by improving their riding. Because actually in Asia, riding schools are really poor. They don't really teach you how to ride. Not the same as Europe or America. They basically have a ground and you pay some money to train yourself. And there are people watching you and picking up the bike when you drop it. And that's it. And, they don't teach you anything.
Holy crap.
So I started giving motorcycle classes in Malaysia. And that's how basically both businesses, so to speak, came together. Because for me, it's like we now have built an ecosystem. So now we have the riding school in Nepal, actually. And basically we built this ecosystem where we train women how to ride. We help them access economic opportunities through our partners, and we give them also economic opportunities as tour guide or instructors or working for us as well. And the motorcycle tours that I organize with women coming from all over the world, we use the profit to buy scooters and invest in our riding schools.
That's awesome.
So that's the ecosystem that has been built, that is still building, and that we started in 2020.
So where did the first journey go to?
So the first one that we could actually implement was in 2022. So we did a Nepal tour in 2022. Then in 2023, we added India as a destination. Nice. And I'm working with the local NGOs as well. There is a local riding schools that does similar things in India. So we train the local women of those schools as tour guides with my friend from India. And now I'm working on a project in Pakistan as well. But yeah, so far we've delivered 2 tours in Nepal and 1 in India. And this year we'll probably deliver 2 in Nepal and 1 in India, maybe Pakistan. I'm not sure. That depends on the customers.
Gotcha. Um,
Busy.
oh, yeah, for sure. On your website, freew.co, it offers both forms of training, both online and in person. For somebody in the States, can you explain each one?
Yes, sure. So basically, the audience is very different. So the physical training is really for the local woman, mainly in Nepal. In Malaysia, to be honest, now I moved back to France and I didn't find a lot of traction in Malaysia for local women to take over. I only have one friend. She keeps giving ad hoc classes, but I didn't have anyone locally who really wanted to take over the project. Whereas in Nepal, I found much more traction in women willing to train other women and become instructors and do that full time. So
Right.
the physical class are mainly now, before it was in Malaysia, now it's mainly in Nepal. And it's targeted at local women who wants to develop their writing skills and who need access to a scooter and need job opportunities. Whereas the online training is more targeted at an international audience where we talk about more advanced skills and, tip and tricks to improve your confidence when you write. And we did that with a partner, Bikers Emporium, Lynn Lesol, based in South Africa. She's a certified BMW instructor. And so she delivered this class with us. And this online course mainly is again to help us raise funds to sponsor the
Right.
training of women in Nepal. So
That's cool.
but we wanted to give value, as I told you before, I don't want the women there to feel that they are like charity, because for me, then it's not sustainable. And they are not charity. I mean, the women who work for us, like they have such resilience, such skills. We just need to give them a little bit of, support and confidence and a safe environment for them to explore their capabilities. And so for me, it's a very important that we have, it's a social business. It has a social impact. And our main driver is the social impact we are making. But it doesn't mean that we are a charity. And that's why I always struggle just to ask for donation. And I want to make sure that the women who give money, they get value in return. So that's why we did this training, the online training, because they will pay the online training 30 euros and they will get value from the training while impacting another woman and sponsoring the training of another woman while they train themselves. And it's the same with the road trip. For me, it's really a give and take. So yes, the customers of the road trips, they come with us to India, to Nepal, they will spend money. We will use that money to sponsor girls, but they are also living extraordinary experience, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they learn from
That's
these
cool.
women as well.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're basically, I mean, everything that comes in just goes back into the business anyway, in regards to continually recruit and give opportunities to others, man. That's a phenomenal concept. Great job with that.
Thanks.
So I was curious if we rewind a little bit. So you met Sushant through rioting in Nepal.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm curious about that dynamic. Could you go into a little bit more about how you found those instructors? And because I know you just said, wow, we found some female instructors, but was there a vetting process? Did you make sure they, had an idea of what they were doing, or what did that period look like?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So first of all, well, I mean, my relationship with Sushant is very special. He's a bit like a little brother, to be honest. He's 10 years younger than me. And actually last year was a very important moment because we went through a process, which is Baitika. It's a special celebration during the festival of Diwali in India, but in Nepal, it's the Festival of Light. And the last day is dedicated to brothers and sisters blessing each other. And so last year we went through this process together. So spiritually, we literally became sisters and brothers. Like usually it's only family members who do that. And last year we did that as a sign of us, as if we were becoming sisters and brothers. And it's funny because then he said, oh, no, you're my bigger sister. So if I do something bad on tour, you can slap me. I was like, I'm not going to slap you. Like, yeah, but you're my big sister. No, I really owe you respect, So yes, it was funny. So what was interesting is that, so Shant, as I told you, I met him on a tour. I was a customer of his, in a way, I was with a group of older white guys, traveling with me from Europe, and I don't know, I really connected with them because first I was living in Asia, and he and his team, they were closer to my age. So, we were partying in the evening, and we got, this close relationship. And then initially, as I told you, it was like, oh, finding woman is going to pick up. And I don't know, over time, we got to discuss. I mean, his first motivation was he wanted to get business, and he wanted to get customers to do tours. But then he got so much involved, and I don't know if me repeating the same things over and over again about women's emancipation and the importance of gender equality. I don't know, but he became so into it, that now he's always telling me, oh, look, there are women on scooters. Yesterday, I count all the women that ride bikes on my notepad, and now he's even like, when we do the motorcycle tours, he says, okay, the salary for the guys who work with us, the mechanics, the driver, I give them half, and I give the other half to their mother or sister of wife, because they manage the money better, and I know they will use it better. So, even like naturally, he's become quite a feminist, so it's really funny to see that and seeing him. So then you asked me how we found those women. So basically he started activating network, and he went to certain association or type of NGOs for the youth. And he told me, I always remember, he said, yeah, I went to this group of women, and I was telling them about the importance of being self-sustainable, to make their own money, to be mobile. And they were looking at me like that, wondering what I was saying, and he said, I felt a little bit awkward as a man, telling them all that. So he just went out there and started talking to the women and asking in the motorcycling community and just looking for them. And he found a lot. Then how we trained them. So initially I was back in France at this time. So when he found a woman who wanted to become instructors, so I trained them online. So we made video call. I sent them, because I had developed a program based on Motorcycle Safety Foundation. This is amazing, honestly, what you do in the US. Like, there was really a lot of material. So I basically synced in the material, and I adapted to the Asian context, because obviously there are a lot of things that, have to be adapted. And I developed a little bit my own program in Malaysia based on Motorcycle Safety Foundation. And I tested it. I saw what was working, what was not working. And so I shared my documents and my program to these women online. And I did some video where I was showing them the positions on the bike, look. So yeah, it was really informal.
Super cool.
And then they started teaching, and they would send me videos, and then I would correct them, and I would tell them, oh, the girl, she didn't manage to take the turn because she was looking at the ground, and so like this. And then last year, when I came there for the motorcycle tour, I also spent 2 extra weeks in Nepal, and I went with the girls, and again, I coached them, and I attended the training and told them what to insist on. So it's really hands-on, and now also we evaluate the training, because we see how many hours they need to bring a woman from nothing to the riding license, and we ask them to fill in satisfaction form as well, to tell us about our trainers, how they are doing, if they were good. And so the good trainers, they are training other women to become trainers as well.
Alison, what bikes are you guys using? Like, what motorcycles are you using for the training?
So in Nepal now we use mainly scooters, because a lot of women, they just need scooters at the beginning, and it's the most affordable bike. That's for the riding school. In Malaysia, it was a little bit different. I would use a Honda FZ, Yamaha FZ, 150. And we also have a small Honda clutch bike. I think it's 250 that we have also in Nepal, but right now mainly it's on scooters.
Gotcha. And when you guys started that recruiting process, when Shashank started looking and coming into the community, were you surprised how many female riders that actually came out of the woodwork for this, or was it still a small number?
No, I was not surprised because I believe there are plenty. But you know,
Right.
we always see what we want to see. And since I'm into that, I see women riders everywhere, you know.
Me too.
And as I said, it's like social. When he pays attention, he realizes that there are a lot of women actually who
Right.
want to be on two wheels or want to be on two. Then a small number. It's difficult to talk number because it depends. Numbers are always assessed based in comparison to other numbers, right?
Right.
So if you tell me in comparison to France, yes, of course, there are not many riders, you know. But if you compare, for example, I don't know, no, I mean, not even Malaysia, because it depends on the population, right? So what surprised me is the number of women who were interested in learning how to ride. So in Malaysia, okay, there was COVID, I must admit. So lots of months that I had to stop training and so on. But overall, I trained 80 plus women, something like that. That was over the course of 2 years, 2.5 years.
Right.
In Nepal, when we started the promotion, when TikTok was still available in Nepal, and they started posting some of our training classes and so on, we got like 80 registration in the span of 3 months.
Wow.
And
Wow.
unfortunately, we could not train them all because some of them are outside the Kathmandu Valley, or they are not able to come or whatever. But the interest that we got for those riding classes really surprised me. And definitely. And the woman that now we have like 2 women who are like full-time trainers. And
Mhm.
and it's true that I was also surprised by the number of women who get trained by us who want to share and become trainers as well.
Ah,
You know,
That's
because they
awesome.
see the impact on them and then they feel
Yeah,
like
of
training
course.
yeah.
other
Pass
women.
it on, of course.
Yeah,
That's
to
great.
pass
That's
it on.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you guys do tours to Nepal, India, Iran, Myanmar. Can you take us through each area and the riding difference between and what's required for each place? Or is it basically the same terrain, same everything? Like, are they
No, it's
different in
very
all those
different.
4? Yeah, take us through that, please, for people who've never been there.
Yeah, of course. So I will make it a little bit simpler, and at least I won't talk too much by focusing on India and Nepal, for the
Okay.
simple reason that Iran and Myanmar now, unfortunately, they are on hold. So as you know, I make a point, and I love taking people off the beaten path, and in countries
Right.
that the woman would not necessarily feel comfortable traveling on their own. The downside of that is that those are sometimes challenging countries. And so Iran and Myanmar in particular, right now, is not really a good context to
Yeah.
bring, I was going to say groups of women riders, but actually group of foreigners or tourists in general,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
those 2 countries right now, unfortunately, I had to put them on hold, and we didn't have the occasion to actually deliver the tour there. However, India, Nepal, and now we are working on Pakistan. The major difference between India and Nepal is definitely the terrain. So in Nepal, we ride with Himalayan, Royal Enfield Himalayan or Royal Enfield Classic or bullet bikes. But we
Mhm.
do a lot of off-road, mountain roads, we cross rivers. It's a lot of riding, like we are on the road at least 6 to 8 hours per day. So of course, we take a lot of breaks, we interact with local populations and so on, but we really spend a lot of the day on the road. And there is altitude and a lot of changes in temperature and landscape. Sometimes we are in the Terai, and then we go up in the mountain, we go up to 3,800 meters, and then we see snow-peaked mountains, and the fauna and flora is so different, and we see different communities, right? And different types of communities and cultures there. In India, the focus, we travel in Telangana. Telangana is a state around Hyderabad, the big city of Hyderabad, and it's a bit in the middle of India, and it's a state that is absolutely not touristic at all. So in terms of encounter with population, the population is much, much more surprised. Like we went on TV, like every time we would stop at a petrol station, the people would come around to take pictures with us. And in every city we would stop, there was like, I don't know how many news articles we were in, they never saw, group of foreigners and even less white women on bike. Like, such a group. So it was quite a phenomenon. However, in terms of riding per se, the roads are much more straightforward. It's 99% paved. The landscape is a little bit more consistent also because India is a much, much bigger country. So the state of Telangana, it's much more like Southeast Asia. It's green, it's more flat. So in terms of riding and landscapes, it's very different. The things that are very common though, and the pillars is one, the social impact that we make. So usually so far, 30% of the revenue that we make from each trip is actually invested in local women. And that can take different forms.
Wow.
That can be,
30%.
Reusable sanitary pads in certain communities. It can be sponsorship of motorcycle training or scooters in Nepal, or doing some cooking classes with local women in their community, or these kind of things. So I would say 30% is invested in local women, and the social impact is obviously one of the key things common to all our road trips. The second aspect is women tour guides and being woman-led. So that's very important that we have local guides and especially local women who can really help interact with the local population. So it's really, the idea is really to give an experience of traveling on your own without being alone. That's always what I say. It's like a solo trip without feeling lonely in a way.
Right.
But yeah, the idea is really to be led by local women. And the third aspect is stepping out of our comfort zone, the challenging side. So in Nepal, it takes the form of riding because clearly the riding is challenging. In India, it takes the form of it's challenging in terms of food and accommodation because we are in very rural area, as I said. And, I always remember the first night that some of the girls, they realized that they had to sleep in the same bed, because you take a double room and we would expect, like twin beds. And when I did the Ricky trip, I didn't even pay attention. I was sleeping in the same bed with my Indian partner and I didn't even pay attention. And then when I took the customers there and said, but there are only one bed. And, I forgot about that, because there they don't have tourists, so you travel with your family and, they are used to Indian tourists who all sleep in the same room, so yeah, that's quite interesting. So, but in any case, there is this change of, pushing the customers, pushing the women who travel with us to push them a bit out of their comfort zone, so that they are also discovering what they are capable of. And usually it's quite transformative for them as well, So we're not
and that's
like,
what
I don't
it's all
consider
about,
myself.
right?
Sorry?
I said, and that's what it's all about. First, you get them onto the bikes, and after the bikes, you keep pushing their limits in regards to things that they probably would normally not do because of it. They're doing it, and it's giving them empowerment, not just being on two wheels, but just in life in general, which is awesome.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it's funny because they push themselves because they think, oh, I want to do a good thing, and I love the social impact. And they think that they are doing something for others which make them a bit less, I wouldn't say guilty, but like, because, women have this kind of inclination to always put others first, right? And so the fact that they are going to support a cause to help other women is kind of limiting their guilt of, doing something also for themselves. But in the end, I've
Makes
realized
sense.
that usually the impact on them is even stronger, because they also discover a lot of things about them. And that's why I'm also saying we're not really like a traditional tour agency, because for me, it's more like, that's why I call them impactful adventures, but impactful on both sides,
Hmm.
Yep.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a butt buffer for every rider's style. Get your butt buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
That's really cool. Are there any other stories that stick out or?
Well, I mean, many. I mean, just in India, it was just very, hilarious and crazy. Like, for example, as I said, we travel with a local woman. So my partner in India, due to there's also of unpredictable things happening as well. And so
Mhm.
during the trip in India, there was the regional election were preponed. And so we were supposed to go to a small town that was close to a border to a next. And since there are a lot of drives at the time, it was funny. We could see lots of trucks with police, like looking for cash in trucks and, searching people.
Wow.
We were advised not to go to that bordering city because it could be a bit dangerous if there were protests or anything. So we changed a bit our route and we decided to go to a city where my partner, Jai, she knows where the Minister of Tourism of the state is actually originally from. And so he happened to be in this city when we came back. And so she gave him a call and we ended up coming to the minister house, seeing the minister welcoming, like hundreds of people from the village because he was in his home village. So the local people, they wanted to put forward some requests and things like that. So they were all queuing and we were sitting there like princesses with our disgusting riding gear in the garden, some tea and watching this in the garden of this minister and then having lunch with the minister. He wanted to have lunch with us. And then
That's wild.
the funniest was that suddenly, out of nowhere, a big crew of TV reporter comes out because the minister wanted to ride a little bit with us. So we gave him a bike.
Oh, no way.
The Royal Enfield. And so we just went, I don't know, we did maybe 200 meters to the city center and back. And we were just riding very slowly behind this minister and having this big truck in front of us with like, I don't know, a dozen camera pointing on us, and then we went on TV that same day, And it's like, that's not the kind of thing you can experience on any motorcycle tour, right?
No,
Yeah,
seriously.
that was a funny experience. But yeah, I have a lot, I have many others. And also in Nepal, obviously. So yeah.
I'm
this
sure
one was
a lot
the
of
most
great,
funny one, I think.
I'm sure a lot of
That was
great
wild.
friendships made through those journeys too, right? Like people from different cultures and different backgrounds, and you realize how much we're all the same when we're enjoying the same thing. So it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So I am interested in taking a trip. So I go to your website, I sign up.
what happens from there? I would imagine we come into contact and you probably ask me a series of questions and what do I need to bring? What do you provide? What does it look like?
Yes, exactly. So based on the trip, on the website, you will find all the relevant data details, like, the itinerary, the number of days, what is including, what is excluded. But again, we're not like any tour agency. So I wouldn't say a lot of selections, to be honest, because it's not as if I had thousands leads, I wish, but I still do some selection. So for me, it's very important that I always say it's not so much about the writing skills, because to be honest, last year in India, one 65-year-old German woman who lives in Thailand, we got to know each other. She loved the project. She had a riding license and she said, "Oh, I want to come, but I'm not sure I can ride." And I say, "Okay, come, we'll see." And obviously she could not ride well enough in India. So she ended up being my pillion, and that was fine. I knew I could take her as a pillion, and now she's taking riding class to take her license again because she loved it so much,
Cool.
and she said, "I want to travel by bike."
That's great.
And on the other side in Nepal, I had women from all the way from 1 year riding experience and no off-road at all to a woman who did the Dakar,
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah.
in terms, for me, it's not a defining criteria. However, the defining criteria is the attitude and the willingness to push oneself out of one's comfort zone, and being open to the experience. And, so for me, again, it's a feeling, it's very difficult to describe, but I talk with the people, I talk with the woman, and I often I ask them more questions than they ask me, because I want really to understand their motivation and their attitude and experience. And then, if they want to confirm, then they make a deposit. And then I also organize a few conference calls with the group before we actually go on the tour so that they can
That's
ask the
smart.
questions. Yeah.
Smart. And get to know each other kind of, or at least see their faces.
Yeah,
That's cool.
exactly. And we have a WhatsApp group as well. So as soon as the girls are confirmed, we have a WhatsApp group and we start exchanging. And what's super cool is that you mentioned it earlier, that those women come from different countries. And again, that's something I think that's quite specific in our tours, because a lot of agencies or tours, usually they focus on a specific market mostly. Whereas I make a point, that's what I love about our tours, is bringing women from different countries. So the customers, it goes from 35 to 65 years old, from Western to Eastern countries, Europe, US, Australia, with different riding skills level. But usually they have a few things in common. Usually they are really attracted by the social impact. Usually they are super adventurous and they want to live something a little bit out of the ordinary. And usually they are super open-minded and flexible.
Gotcha. Well, do you tell them what to pack as far as gear, or do you guys provide something like that?
Yeah, I always say, of course, we can provide gear, but let's face it. I mean, we go to India and Nepal. I mean, in their countries of origin, they have such more better gear, especially for women. Imagine in our own country, it's already difficult to find appropriate gear for women that fit, So imagine in India and Nepal, of course, we can find extra gear by a helmet, but the quality of things and the adaptability for women is not very good. Plus, as I told them, I mean, I don't know for you, but me as a rider, I want to have my own gear. We spend hours on the bike. So you want to feel good in your jacket. You want to feel good in your helmet. So I always tell them to bring their own gear. But then I have a packing list also that I send them with what to bring in each country, what's important to carry. So yes, of course, in our web calls and WhatsApp, and I send them the documents about what they need to bring.
Right. Gotcha.
Cool.
And what motorcycles are you guys, is each trip different bikes, or to tell us a little bit, or is it how are you using the motorcycles? Which motorcycles are you using? Do they bring their motorcycles? Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
No, so we rent the motorcycles locally. So in India,
Okay.
we mainly rent Royal Enfield, Bullet
Yep.
or Classic. And in India, we don't even take a mechanics with us because, to be honest, like there are Royal Enfield shops in every village we stop. Like, I mean, it's really easy to get repairs, and that's the reason why we use this brand as well. And it's very comfortable to ride long hours. I mean, actually, in India, we don't ride that long as Nepal. And in Nepal, we offer the option of Royal Enfield Himalayan, which is a little bit more suited for off-road, a little bit, I wouldn't say lighter, it's slightly higher, but really I'm 1.60 m and I have no issue riding that. And Royal Enfield Classic as well. So we give the customers, the guests, we give them the option to choose and we rent them. So we rent them locally.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that makes sense. You don't have the overhead or the costs of the bikes. And then once the trip is done, you give them back. You don't have to worry because, I mean, you're just starting this organization anyway. So, I mean, to have that additional cost on top of it.
Yeah. And
pretty
expensive. To be honest, like we would love to have our own bike because that's a big chunk of the cost. In India,
Sure.
not so much, but Nepal, the bikes are really expensive. I don't know if it's because of the taxes, because they're so close to India, but it's very difficult to get recent bikes. So they are old and it's easy to have shortage and the price is really high. So we really would like to buy a few, to be honest, because that could be useful for some of our, trainers. They could use it to go to work as well. But for now, we decided to invest in scooters. So the profits of the tour, we invested rather in scooters because the usage rate, be it for training or for girls who want to rent it to go to work and these kind of things, is a bit easier and it's also cheaper than buying a Royal Enfield if we use it, for just for tours. Then it doesn't really make sense. But I started talking with Royal Enfield because, I told them, if you want to do some CSR initiatives, maybe you could give us a few bikes because that money we don't use to rent bikes, we could use it to invest in scooters or maybe to buy one of our own or, So we're looking at.
So, well, what are you riding? What's your bike? Do you have your own or are you renting too?
In Nepal?
Yeah.
I rented too.
You rented too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to ride because I'm small, I always thought, I don't want to ride the Himalayan. I love the Classic. It's so much nicer and it's better for my size. And, I'm used to ride a Harley. So the position, the heaviness and so on, like I was used to it. But then in 2022, when I went with my team to pick up the bikes for our guests, I rode the Himalayan to bring it to the hotel. And I was like, oh my God, it's so light and so easy to ride. And so I thought, okay, in 2023, I want to ride the Himalayan. And so this year I rode the Himalayan and I loved it. I thought it was just like a bicycle. So I was like, okay, now I stay on the Himalayan for Nepal.
That's awesome.
Nice. Alison, I'm curious, for those of us who haven't been to India before, it's pretty well known for the controlled chaos on the road.
Yeah.
Just lots of us have seen the wild videos of essentially you just drive where there's room. Have you had any close calls and how much of your riding is actually on those crazy streets and how much of it is more rural?
So actually it's the same. I mean, it's totally correct what you're saying, but it's not only in India. It's the same in India and Nepal, to be honest.
Nepal too,
that's
right?
crazy.
Wow.
So in terms of percentage, it's a bit difficult to say. I would say that in India, maybe it's a little bit more intense in terms of traffic in India, because when we leave or when we come back to Hyderabad, it's a huge city and it can take us like easily 1 hour to get out of the city and so on. But on the way out, actually, we leave early in the morning, so that's not too bad. But I would say we are more on also like big roads or highway. So traffic-wise, I would say it's a little bit more challenging in India. Whereas in Nepal, there are lots of places where like it's off-road and there are not so much traffic and we are in the mountains. But when there is traffic, then it's double more difficult because you've got the traffic and the terrain to manage. You know, and the girl was with us who did Dakar. She said, the most challenging for me is the traffic. It's not the terrain because I rode on sand.
Used to it.
But it's the terrain plus the traffic that you need to manage. And that's a little bit mad, that's for sure. In terms of close call, well, we have close calls all the time, to be honest. But again, first of all, the locals, they are really used to avoiding you. And I always say, I love riding in this country because I really feel like in the flow. For me, when I'm riding there, it's like a dance, and at the beginning, and what's funny is that all our guests, by the end of the trip, they feel it too. And I always remember, like, when we go out of the city, the women are a bit stressful. We are a little bit unsure. Like I'm always closing the ride. So I'm always like making sure that I protect them from other vehicles ongoing and they're a little bit unsure. And by the end of the tour, it's a bit like our crowd, our group makes one. I don't know how to explain, but when we got back from, the last day of our India tour, just speaking of it gives me shivers because I had to cry because when we entered the city and there was so much traffic all around and we were riding, all of us, we were 10 bikes, 8 bikes or 9, riding as one. It was just, and I was at the back and I could see how we were flowing traffic as one. It was just so beautiful.
That's awesome.
But it didn't last too long. At some point, we got split in 3 groups, and somebody had to make a U-turn facing traffic.
Hey, how many bikes go?
It's India, Alison, but that was just beautiful.
Alison, how many motorcycles are on this trip? Like, how many do you allow? What's a comfortable number for you to be able to manage?
So usually we tap it at 8. So we of course, I'm not counting the team, but I cap it at 8 guests, simply because, as I said, we go off the beaten path. Sometimes we stay in homestays. In India, we also stayed at friends' houses for dinner, and so we want to make sure that we have enough space and that we can also easily interact with locals. If we are too much of a big group, then and it's the same. If you speak the same language, same culture, then we tend to stay together, just as a group. We don't open up so much to the outside world in a way. So I found so far that 8 was a sweet number. So now we kept it at 8.
Gotcha. And as far as like the packing is concerned of what they bring, you're basically strapping, you're telling them, bring, like, let's say a backpack filled with this, strapped onto the motorcycle. And then do you guys sleep on this trip? Do you always have a destination where you go to? Or sometimes if you're off the beaten path, do you guys just put a tent up and crash out?
So first of all, we have a support truck. So they have a small backpack with papers and water that they can bring on the bike, sorry. But the luggage, we keep it in the support car, with spare parts and extra fuel. And so that kinds of lighten up the burden to spend time in the morning, having to, attach the bag properly and so on and so forth. In terms of accommodation, no, we do not. Actually, we camp in India, but we camp in a camping place. Like it's not wild camping, So we always have a destination where we either camp or stay in small tea houses or hotel, depending. But we always have a place to stop.
All right, thank you.
That's cool. So what is your ultimate vision with FreeW, what's your dream impact that you want to make and the legacy that you want to leave behind?
So my dream is to enable 100,000 women to ride bikes and access economic opportunities in the next 10 years.
Wow.
So
Specific. Nice.
yeah,
I like it.
that's my
That's cool.
vision. Don't ask me why 100,000. Like I came up with that number at some point looking at the market.
Very specific.
Yeah. I just like, and I just look at the market, the number of women and the market growth and number of motorcycles, and it seems something realistic. But yeah, that would be my big dreams, because I really think that if more women rode motorcycles, they would free themselves from their fears and self-limiting beliefs, and again, I think that it's an amazing vehicle to access economic opportunities. And it's definitely an industry where we need a bit more balance and gender diversity, right? So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know in the States over the last, I think since COVID, since like 2020, I think the increase is close to 35% female riders going to get their license. So it's been great. It's increased 35% since COVID. So that's a blessing. And less men are going to get their license. So we're going to be catching up soon, man. I don't know if this new generation likes to work hard. They'd rather play video games, I think. But hey, listen, I want to ask you a question too. What was cool is you got this set up on your website with the blog, right? And that's basically the people that have gone on the journeys with you. I love what you did because you really, as a rider, as somebody who rides and you read what they're saying, you understand it. Like you feel what they're explaining. What went into that with you? Why'd you decide to put that on there?
When the blog part basically initially was just to have a space first, initially to tell my story, how it came up, and to share my vision of the world and why I felt it was important to use to support women to break free from self-limiting belief and social expectations, and that motorcycling was a good tool for that. And then it turns into sharing the stories of other women. So as you know, I also interviewed, on my YouTube channel, you will see I interviewed 30 women riders across the world in Asia, Europe, and so on, to understand why they were riding and what riding brought to their lives and so on. And so I wanted to translate that into some blog as well. So there are some stories about other women. And then more recently, it's just the customers themselves who told me I would like to write an article, or, I would like to publish my stories somewhere, or, and I said, oh, okay, can I use it on the blog? And because there's also something I forgot to mention, but what's something that I did not expect and that I love most about those trips is that the women who come, as I say, it always makes me sound weird to say customers, because either they are guests in our experiences and we welcome them in Nepal or India, or they actually become part of FreeW. So to give you an example, first of all, the 3 videos that you will see about our 3 tours that we have done so far, the 2 in Nepal and 1 in India, they were all made by participants themselves.
Cool.
I didn't hire professionals, there was Juvena in India that she came on the tour with us, and, she didn't pay the local fee, she didn't pay locally. In exchange, she produced the video. But I knew her from before. She wanted to be part of the community. And for the other trips in Nepal, it's just participants who happen to have video editing skills and who said, yeah, I'd be happy to do it, And
That's
so
cool.
we discussed
Really
on
cool.
the trips, and they have shared the experience themselves. So, they know what they want to select, what was important to them, and so on. Then I have one of my guests in India. Now she wants to support and open a non-profit in France so that we can raise funds for the scooters and not only rely on the tours to generate
that's awesome.
funds. And so we want to make a crowdfunding platform soon. And then there was also two women who took part in the tours who said, look, I have this job. I'm quite flexible. I would love to create a tour for you. I'm going to live in Asia soon, and I would like to do one in Vietnam and one, so
Nice.
it's, and I would say, honestly, from all the customers, at least like 50% have been involved somehow in FreeW, and at
Sheesh.
least 30% are still somewhat involved. And some, they also decided, they came on the tour and then they decided to sponsor a woman's training on top of the tour, so
So cool.
it's,
Yeah.
and there's another one now. She's writing some articles and blogs and she wants to help to promote the tours. And she said, if you need, I can go and do a Reiki trip for you if you need in Pakistan or somewhere else.
Right.
So yeah, it's very interesting how they get involved.
I have to tell you,
Yeah.
your passion, you can feel it when you're talking. So it's so awesome to see. You can tell that you're doing this out of love and exactly what you love, and that comes out just naturally. So for us just to sit here and listen to you, it's keep up the amazing work. Let me ask you this: how can people find you? How can they get a hold of you? Where are you social media wise? We're gonna link this up with the notes of the podcast, but to tell everybody, please.
So for me, the most important is the website, freew.co, and sign up to our newsletter because you will have the whole story. You can be informed of the next tours or all the initiatives that we are doing. You can get involved. And on the website, obviously, you will get my email address. So when you get the newsletter, it's my email address sending it. So I'm quite easy to reach out to, right? So
Okay.
I would say the key place is the website because also you see the tours, you see the videos for each tour. So that's a good place to start.
You have a YouTube channel also?
Yes, but again on the website
You can link right from
find the
there.
YouTube channel. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
All right, cool.
And then what are your next tour dates coming up?
So the next one is April. It's 13th to 26th of April. And so far, unfortunately, a lot of registrations for April moved to October. So we only have 2 customers. But again, unlike any tour agency, we decided to do it anyway. So I
Good.
will not be on the tour
Cool.
personally because then honestly we would lose money. So I want to go to I will go anyway in April for the riding schools because I have to do some meetings and I want to welcome my guests and do the first day with them so that they feel comfortable. But then the local team, they say, hey, look, it's a good opportunity for Kritika, our trainee tour guide, to actually really lead the tour. And so I talked to my guests and I said, are you okay to do the tour just with my local team? You will be really looked after because there are going to be 4 to look after you and you will still have the support truck and so on. And they say, yeah, of course, let's do it. And so, so it will be very special because this time there will be the 2 of them and looked after by the local team and with Kritika leading her first tour on her own. I mean, not on her own, but like as official tour lead.
Right.
And then our next dates will be October, 16th to 29th of October. That's in Nepal. And the India dates are early October, 1st to 13th. So in India, we always make the date based on the Batukama festival. So in this, that's something I forgot to mention, but we go during a festival of flower that celebrate femininity and womanhood. And that's really key because in India, I don't know if you've ever been, but the women are really absent from the public space. Their space is at home. And so during Batukama festival, they all come out and dance and they do all those prayers. They put offers of flowers in the lakes. And it's just such a joyful moment between women dancing and celebrating together. So during the trip, we actually celebrate this festival in the different cities we visit. So that's what you see as well in the videos.
That's
So
cool.
That's cool.
That is really cool.
And I'm curious with riding through. You've been through Iran, and I'm curious if
if you've had any issues or difficulties in some of those societies that don't give women the same freedom that they deserve, that they should have. Have you had to worry about face coverings, or I imagine you have your helmet on, but have you run into any of those headache things in any of those trips?
No, never. As I said, now we have done Iran. We have not done Iran yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Maybe in Pakistan, but from what I've heard and friends who have traveled there, not really. As you said, you're right. We are always equipped and as motorcycle rider with our helmet. Usually the only thing that is more like getting a little bit too much attention sometimes. Like, as I said, in India, we could not stop and fuel our bikes without spending at least 15 minutes doing selfies with all the staff of the, you know what I mean? But overall, no, we never had. And again,
Good.
we are a group of women, and I don't know why, but the fact of being as a group of women, like it's just a really fine balance between being seen as woman and being vulnerable enough that we are not seen as a threat, but as a group having this strength that people look at us and are a bit impressed, and so I don't know. For me, I always feel more vulnerable on foot than on my motorcycle, because people, those women that are riding motorcycle, they must be strong, they have this idea in their head, So yeah, but what's amazing is seeing little girls and how they look at us. I mean, that's what I love most.
Oh man,
when we take show them that we are women riding bikes, and also the perception of age, because we also have women who are like 40, 50. And, in those countries, when you're a woman after 40, you've done your kids, you raise your kids, your life is a bit over, So for those women as well, to see like 40, 50 years old women still having fun and riding bikes and traveling is really inspiring to them. And seeing local Indian women as well, because again, we take local Indian women, so Nepalese women. And that's also very important in terms of role models,
Yeah. I hope any young female riders or enthusiasts who are listening to this, I know that they're going to get a lot out of this and be able to kind of, I don't know, our society is so focused with social media, especially the younger generation, that they don't smell the flowers, I'm not saying smell the flowers, being outside and then to be able to operate a motorcycle on top of that, we are away from the noise and it's just you, the wind, and your soul, man. I mean, there's nothing like it in the world. So I hope this show inspires a few people. I think they're going to just by your passion. So, all right, we're going to the speed round next. You ready for some fast questions? All right, here's the deal. If you don't answer the questions in 2 minutes, Ben and I get to fly in on the house and you take us on a tour. Deal? All right, let's do it, Ben.
All right, cool. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Launch the clock. Okay. Favorite motorcycle you've ever ridden or owned?
My Sportster 883.
Nice.
No,
sorry if you're going to say the Himalayan.
No. Recently, the Lowrider ST. Sorry. Recently, I got to have the Harley Davidson Lowrider ST, and I loved it.
Boy, your parents corrupted your mind with the Harley Davidson. I love it. Awesome.
Definitely.
If your motorcycle could talk, what would it say about you?
She's so peaceful.
I like it. Good one.
Good.
Best place you've ever ridden and why?
Oh, so many. Well, I will say Nepal. I have to say Nepal because, that's where things have sparked for me and where I got enlightened and where I totally connected spiritually on my bike. So
awesome.
Wow. Nepal of all places. Imagine that.
I mean, there are lots of places that I love riding into, but it's just that Nepal has it's accumulated the fact that we built the riding school there, that it's the mountains and the spirituality that is just
So prevalent there.
It just how to say reinforces my feeling on the bikes. On the bike when I ride, when I'm in Nepal and I ride in Nepal, it's just amplified. That's what's the word. It amplifies my sense of again, peacefulness and peacefulness.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the most embarrassing song on your playlist?
I don't know what's embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed by much, to be honest. I would say just because my date is a pro, like rock and roll and things like that. And when I put my folk, Indian or Nepalese music, is like this shitty music you're listening to, So I would say maybe some Indian folk music or Asian folk music I'm listening to sometimes. But yeah, I'm not really embarrassed by that.
Eclectic. It's fun. So if you could get up on stage with one band and sing or jam with them, who would it be?
Oh, I think it would go, but there are many. Like out of top of my mind would be ZZ Top, because
Nice. Yes.
because my father made me dance on Lagrange song, so
Lagrange,
young and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, ZZ Top, if you're listening. If you could time travel, which era would you travel to? It could be past or present or future.
I really love the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 50s. I
That's
think for
awesome.
the music, the clothes.
Yeah.
And but I think the 70s were pretty cool too because of the peace and love movement and things like that. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Ben still wears his disco clothes till this day, so
I've got bell bottoms on right now, actually. The 50s with that start of rock and roll too, like that time just had to have been awesome.
for sure.
yeah.
Favorite book you would recommend everyone should read?
A World of 3-0 from Mohammed Yunus.
Okay. But can you say the title again for me? The World of what?
A World of 3-0
3-0. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
from
I'm gonna
Mohammed.
look it up.
He's
Yeah,
the
throw it in the
founder
notes.
of the microfinance movement and the concept of social business.
Gotcha.
Oh, cool. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Who was your movie crush when you were a teenager?
Movie crush. Maybe Leonardo DiCaprio for a while.
Leonardo
Nice.
DiCaprio. Okay.
All
Or
right.
Johnny Depp.
Ben's too.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
But
Yeah.
it's funny because Leonardo DiCaprio is not my style at all, actually. But I don't know, maybe it was the impact of Titanic or,
Titanic,
but,
yeah.
but I really
The role
like,
he played.
I really like kind of like Johnny Depp and, but yeah, I'm not a
Nice.
TV person.
Yeah,
But yeah, maybe
DiCaprio's a great actor too.
Yeah.
If you were floating on the door, would you scoot over so Jack could climb up?
What, sorry, if?
It's a very the Titanic. Everybody makes fun of that movie because with when Kate Winslet was on the door, they
Yeah.
zoomed out and there's plenty of room for Jack to just come on to the other side of the door. Anyway, all
Are
right.
you still crying? Are you still upset about this?
I'm still so upset about it. It was 80 years ago. If you could meet and have dinner with one person from any time period, who would it be and why?
Well, I think again, I'd love to chat with Mohammed Yunus.
Cool. All right.
Well, I really
What is the... Oh, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I would love to talk about how he started the movement and Also because right now he's being, threatened by the government of Bangladesh to be to prison.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's being, kind of bullied and things like that. So, whereas it is
Interesting insights.
Good old government.
Yeah.
Good old government.
Yeah.
Always doing the wrong thing.
Definitely. I'm going to link him up in the show notes so people can check him out. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Don't forget to have fun.
Nice.
That's good.
Solid.
Yeah, it's true.
One law you would change if you were the ruler that would help out the motorcycle community.
What law?
What law?
Law. The helmet. But actually in the US, you have states where you don't need to wear helmets, right?
Right. Florida.
So-
We live in Florida, and there's no helmet law here.
Yeah, but at the same time, like in Daytona Beach, I was passing through the cars and I was like, and people told me, are you crazy? It's not allowed to ride through the cars. I mean, your your legislation is really weird. But I guess, yeah, I would make helmet non-compulsory, I guess. I should not say that as a tour leader trainer. I'm not sure
Off the
that's
record.
the best law, to be honest, in terms of safety. But I'm saying that because when I was riding, in the US at some point, riding without the helmet was just so cool, and sometimes in Asia we do it as well, and it's just so nice. But also more seriously, obviously, again, if we look worldwide, in Iran specifically, women are not allowed to take a riding license. It's not that they are not
Really?
allowed to ride, they can ride off-road and so on, but they are not allowed to take their riding license and driving license in Iran. So that I would definitely change.
Crazy.
Garbage. Here's a fun one.
This
If
day and age.
Yep. So if they made a biker themed movie about you, who would play Allison?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I was about to say maybe I was about to say Angelina Jolie because of the Tomb Raider, because I cut a bit my hair, but when I ride I always have a plate a plate on the side, and so people would always say that I have the Tomb Raider haircut in a way.
Yeah.
But she's super hot, so I don't feel like that would be. So honestly, I have no idea. And some people told me I looked a bit like, I think it's Alisa Milano.
Oh,
yeah. Alyssa Milano, yeah. Yeah. That could work.
That could work.
Yeah.
Are there any silly superstitions that you follow on or after or before a ride or a tour? Any silly things you do?
There are many, to be honest, but I wouldn't call them silly. I mean, first of all, when we go on tour, we always do a bike puja. So we actually, but it's not my traditional superstition. It's just that in those countries, you just bless the motorcycles because they are going to make you travel. And again, in the videos of the tour, you will see that. Like on the first Nepal video, you can see the process of making the puja, and we give some blessings to the bikes. I like to talk to my bike, so I definitely talk to my bike and speak to her, like let's go together. And so that's a bit of a superstition. But otherwise, no, nothing extra specific.
Gotcha. We had a guest on named Mike, and he said he would always tell his bike, Mikey like bikey, bikey like Mikey.
Oh, that's interesting. No,
All right.
That's cool.
All right. Last question. Besides the One Gang Worldwide podcast, what's either your favorite or some of your favorite other podcasts out there?
I'm not much of a podcast listener, to be honest. I don't manage to focus my attention to sound so much. So I prefer to
Mhm.
read because if I listen to podcasts, usually I would start doing something else and then I struggle to even
Yeah.
focus. So I have a lot of podcasts. I've listened a few diverse ones, but there's not one that I particularly follow because I listen to some podcasts sometimes on social enterprise, sometimes on
Mhm.
bikers, but overall, I don't listen to much podcast. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I have to do it when I'm driving. If it's just on at the house or something, I'm the same way. I get distracted and do
Always
something
at
else
the
and then
gym.
have to
Yeah.
rewind.
And I want to listen to some when I'm running or jogging. But the thing is, I
Right.
prefer to listen to music, I prefer to be in the, and
Mhm.
also like when you've been thinking and working all day, plus I love reading books. Then when it comes to
Mhm.
listening, sometimes I just want to switch off my brain, and
Mhm.
I don't want to
Mhm.
be
Yeah.
listening and having to pay attention. So usually when I have to listen to something, I would choose music over podcast.
Cool.
And yeah, and if I want to learn things, I would read books.
All right.
I'm changing the last question then. Can you give us 2 more books?
Yes, sure. I will show you one. I want to show you.
Awesome.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you.
Perfect. She's jogging back over there. There's no rush.
Can you
Right.
read?
Women, Motorcycles, and the Road to Empowerment
That's cool.
by Liz Jansen. That's cool.
So that's a really
Got
good
it.
one. And another one is The Power of One Thought from B.K. Chivani. She's an Indian nun.
Have
And,
you thought about writing
Indian
something
nun.
from
Wow.
your journeys? Have you thought about possibly putting some stuff on paper?
uh, no, I haven't.
No, not yet. You're still young. You're still young. Wait,
Yeah,
wait a
I'm
little
still
bit.
young, and I mean, if I want to help enable 100,000 women to ride bikes,
That's right.
I don't really have time to write a book right now, but I think in my older days.
That's fine.
Perfect. Well, you made it through the speed round. You survived it.
A
Were
minute 59
successfully. So
seconds.
Oh,
Perfect.
so I don't have to
Before.
pay your flights. You
You
can
don't
pay
have to
for
pay
your
our
flights.
flights.
yeah.
Ben's
Maybe
gonna
I
take
should
care
have.
of it. He's the rich guy in the family.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I should have
Well,
done a
thank you,
bet.
Allison.
Maybe I should have done a bet and tell
Hmm.
you if I do this speed questioning in less than 2 minutes, then you should send me money and buy a few scooters.
Hey, listen.
There you go.
What we will do though is, um, when you come back to Florida, okay? Anytime you come back to Florida, we're gonna stay in contact throughout, and you'll always have a motorcycle here. I've got a couple extra bikes that you can always ride. So if you come down here, we'll show you an awesome, awesome little touring around here. We'll take you to some cool places and have some fun. Okay? Just know that the doors are always open here for you.
If you can handle
Yeah,
India, you can handle 95.
I don't know.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
I think
definitely.
95 is
Definitely.
worse.
But I told you, I traveled to Florida already. I was like 26.
Yeah, you were
because I
talking
wanted
about it
to
in
meet this
Daytona.
hot- I wanted to meet this hot American custom bike maker who lives in Daytona.
Mhm.
And I met him on Facebook and he was so cool. Like, I want to go to Florida. We never knows. Maybe he's the man of my life. Well, he was not, but at least I got an amazing road trips. I
Right.
rented
Yeah.
a Fat Boy there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
sweet.
rode all the way from Miami to Daytona. And yeah, gosh, those
Nice.
roads, like 5 ways.
Yeah, 95.
I left at 5 a.m. and those highways, fives, oh, that was frightening. You talk about India on
Yeah.
one, but when I was on those 5-lane highways,
No.
I was much more afraid than in Nepal or
Agreed.
India.
95
South
is like
Florida
one
is
of the
brutal.
worst. Yeah, it's brutal. It's even worse
Yep.
now. I don't know how long ago you
Miami and Lauderdale is all terrible. Further north, it gets a little bit better, but yeah, it's down there. If you turn your turn signal on, it means that the other person needs to speed up so you can't turn. It's an unspoken rule.
Crazy.
But Allison, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you
We
so much,
appreciate you.
Allison.
Thanks for the
Can't wait
invite,
to link
guys.
everything
It was
up.
lovely talking to you.
Likewise.
You as well, definitely.
We wish your organization nothing but success. And if it's cool with you, maybe get you back on at the end of the year, see how the tours win in April and October, okay? Maybe talk a little about some stuff like that. So if that's cool with you, we'd be more than thrilled
Sure.
to have you back.
Sure, with pleasure.
Awesome.
Awesome. Appreciate
Thank
you,
you,
Allison. Be
guys.
good.
Take care.
Thank you.